The Great Hall of Apex Prime Station floated in neutral space, far from any star system. Inside, representatives from 43 different species gathered around the circular chamber. The air filters worked overtime to accommodate dozens of different atmospheric requirements. Some delegates wore breathing apparatus, others sat in specialized chairs filled with water or methane. The Galactic Council was in session. Ambassador Krethik of the Krithian sovereignty stood at the central podium. His scales gleamed under the artificial lights, deep crimson with black ridges along his spine. He was speaking about expansion rights in the Outer Rim territories. His voice carried the confidence of a species that had dominated this region of space for 3 centuries. The Krithian sovereignty requests authorization to establish military outposts in sectors 7 through 12, Krethik announced. These sectors are unclaimed and strategically important. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. The insectoid Veshitar representative clicked her mandibles in what might have been approval or concern. The crystalline Lumini delegate refracted light in patterns that indicated thoughtful consideration. Nobody openly objected. The Dranathi ambassador, his tank filled with purple ammonia-based liquid, finally spoke through his translator. These sectors were once considered for colonization by the humans, before the extinction event. A ripple of various reactions moved through the chamber. Some species had never heard of humans. Others remembered them as a cautionary tale. Krethik's face split into what passed for a Krithian smile, showing rows of sharp teeth. Indeed, the humans are an excellent example of why the sovereignty's military presence is necessary. They were an aggressive species, expanding rapidly, consuming resources without regard for established territorial boundaries. They would have become a threat to every peaceful species in this region. They were eliminated over a century ago, the Veshitar representative noted. 107 years, Krethik confirmed. Our fleet arrived at their homeworld, a planet they called Earth. They attempted to resist with their primitive weapons. The conflict was brief. Earth was sterilized. The human species was removed from the galactic stage before they could spread their dangerous ideology further. The chamber fell silent. Krethik took this as agreement. So you see, honored delegates, the Krithian sovereignty has proven our capability and willingness to maintain galactic order. Our request for expansion is not merely territorial ambition. It is a service to the entire council. The vote was called. 38 species voted in favor. 3 abstained, 2 voted against. The Krithian expansion was approved. As the session ended and delegates filtered out through various exits suited to their biology, a young Lumine assistant approached the Dranathi ambassador's tank. Ambassador Thelux, did the humans truly deserve what happened to them? The old Dranathi's form shifted in his tank, colors changing to indicate sadness. I met a human once long ago at a trade conference. She was curious, passionate, and yes, perhaps too ambitious. But genocidal? No, I do not believe they deserved extinction. Then why did no one speak against the Krithians? Because, young one, fear makes cowards of us all. Far across the galaxy, in a region of space so remote that no trade routes pass through it, something stirred in the darkness between stars. A vessel drifted, its hull painted in colors that absorbed sensor sweeps. It had been there for 3 weeks, watching a Krithian military patrol route. Inside the ship, Captain Sarah Chen studied the holographic display. She was 43 years old and had never seen Earth except in historical recordings. Her parents had been born on the colony ship Resilience. Her grandparents had been among those who fled Earth when the Krithian extermination fleet was detected approaching. The patrol ship is on schedule, her tactical officer reported. The Talon of Dominion, Krithian heavy cruiser, 600 meters long, crew of 240. Chen nodded. Weapon status? All systems ready. EMP charge is armed. Boarding teams are standing by. Chen looked at the faces of her crew. They were focused, professional. They had trained for this moment their entire lives. Every human born in the last century had grown up knowing the truth. Earth still existed, but it was occupied. Humanity still existed, but they were in exile, and one day they would return. This is not about revenge, Chen reminded her crew. This is about sending a message. We're not extinct, we're not helpless, and we're coming home. She gave the order. Begin the operation. The human stealth ship powered up systems that had been dormant for weeks. The Crithian vessel's sensors never detected the threat. The first the Crithians knew of danger was when their ship's electrical systems went dead. Emergency lighting flickered on. Alarms that should have blared remained silent. On the Crithian bridge, Commander Vathrek scrambled to understand what was happening. Report! What hit us? Unknown, Commander. All primary systems are offline. Communications are down. Weapons are down. We're dead in space. Pirates? A spatial anomaly? Before anyone could answer, metal screamed as something cut through their hull. Vathrek grabbed a plasma rifle from the emergency locker. His crew did the same. They turned toward the breach, ready to fight whatever boarders came through. Figures in black armor emerged. Their weapons were unlike anything Vathrek had seen. They moved with military precision, covering angles, securing the corridor. One of them stepped forward and removed their helmet. Vathrek stared at the face. Smooth skin, small nose, eyes that showed both determination and something else. Sadness? The creature spoke, and the translator rendered it in perfect Crithian standard. I am Captain Sarah Chen of the United Humanity Space Force. You are prisoners of war. Drop your weapons and you will not be harmed. Human? Vathrek's voice cracked. Impossible. Your species is extinct. Chen's expression hardened. Does it look like we're extinct, Commander? The Crithian crew hesitated. One of them raised his weapon. A human soldier fired first, a stun round that dropped the Crithian instantly. The message was clear. Resistance was futile. Vathrek dropped his rifle. His crew followed his example. Chen gestured, and her soldiers moved forward to secure the prisoners. She approached Vathrek directly. Your species tried to kill us all, she said quietly. You burned our cities. You destroyed our orbital stations. You thought you had won. We did win, Vathrek insisted, though his voice lacked conviction. Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. No, Commander, you didn't. We saw you coming years before you arrived. We evacuated Earth. Billions of us fled into deep space to colonies you never knew existed. We left behind automated defenses that made you think you had succeeded. And we've spent the last century preparing. She leaned closer. Preparing to come home? Chen turned to her communications officer. Open a channel. Broadcast on all Crithian military frequencies. Channel open. Captain. Chen looked directly at the recording device. She knew that within hours, every Crithian commander in their territory would see this message. To the Crithian sovereignty, this is Captain Sarah Chen, United Humanity Space Force. 107 years ago, you attempted to exterminate the human race. You failed. We survived. We built. We grew stronger. And now we're coming home. Earth belongs to humanity. You have occupied our world for over a century. That occupation ends now. This is not a negotiation. This is not a threat. This is a promise. We're coming home, and nothing in the galaxy will stop us. The transmission ended. Chen looked at Vathrek one last time. You'll be treated according to the rules of war, better treatment than your people gave us. When this is over, you'll be released to tell your superiors exactly what you've seen here today. They'll never believe me, Vathrek said. They will when they see our fleet. The human soldiers escorted the Crithian crew to holding cells. Chen returned to her bridge. Around her, the crew worked quietly, efficiently. They had accomplished their mission. Set course for Rally Point Omega, Chen ordered. It's time to join the fleet. Her ship slipped back into the darkness between stars, leaving the disabled Crithian vessel drifting. In a few hours, a rescue ship would find it. The crew would report what they had seen, and the galaxy would learn that humanity was not extinct. The 107 years of silence were over. High Counselor Vexcon slammed his clawed fist on the table. The holographic displays around the war room flickered at the impact. 23 Crithian military commanders stood at attention, none daring to meet his eyes. How many? Vexcon's voice was dangerously quiet. 17 outposts have been attacked in the last 30 days, High Counselor, General Threkfor reported. 3 supply depots destroyed, 2 patrol vessels disabled, 47 military personnel captured, 0 casualties among the attackers. And what have our forces managed to accomplish against these ghosts? Silence. Nothing. Vexcon answered his own question. Our ships cannot detect them. Our weapons cannot hit them. They strike and vanish like smoke. And you expect me to report to the Sovereignty Council that we are being systematically humiliated by a species we declared extinct? High Counselor. We believe the attacks are psychological warfare, Threkfor offered. A small group of human survivors, perhaps a few thousand, using guerrilla tactics. They cannot possibly have the resources to threaten our core territories. Vexcon brought up the recording that every commander had seen a dozen times. Captain Sarah Chen's face filled the display. Her words echoed through the chamber. We're coming home. Does she look like someone engaging in psychological warfare, General? Does she look desperate or afraid? No. She looks confident. She looks like someone who knows something we do not. Vexcon dismissed the commanders. When they were gone, he contacted the one person whose judgment he trusted above all others. Ambassador Krethik appeared on the communications screen, still at Apex Prime Station. High Counselor, I heard about the latest attacks. The Council wants to know if this is real, Vexcon said. They want to know if humanity truly survived. I believe they did, Krethik admitted, and I believe we made a terrible mistake. At Apex Prime, the emergency session of the Galactic Council was chaotic. Species that rarely spoke were demanding answers. The Lumini representatives' crystalline form pulsed with agitated colors. The Veshitar delegation clicked their mandibles in distress. Even the normally passive Dranathi were upset. Order! The council chairman, a 4-armed Quellan, called for silence. We will address this crisis systematically. Ambassador Krethik stood at the Crithian podium, feeling every eye upon him. Honored delegates, the Crithian sovereignty acknowledges that we are experiencing coordinated attacks by vessels claiming to be of human origin. Claiming to be, the Veshtar representative demanded. Your own military confirmed that the captured crews have seen humans face to face. A small remnant population, Krethik insisted. A few survivors who escaped our pacification of Earth. They pose no significant threat. No threat? The Dranathi ambassador's tank bubbled with agitation. They have attacked 17 military installations without being detected or stopped. They have disabled your warships without destroying them. They have captured your personnel without killing them. That level of restraint and capability suggests significant resources and discipline. A new voice cut through the debate. Perhaps you should ask them directly. Every head turned. A holographic figure materialized in the center of the chamber, unauthorized and unexpected. The security systems should have prevented any intrusion, but there she stood, Captain Sarah Chen, broadcasting from an unknown location. Captain Chen, the council chairman said carefully, you are addressing the Galactic Council without authorization. I'm addressing the species who allowed my people to be targeted for extinction without protest, Chen replied. I thought you deserved to know the truth before rumors consume you all. If you wish to make a formal complaint about the Crithian actions 107 years ago, there are proper channels, the chairman began. I'm not here to complain, Chen interrupted. I'm here to inform you that humanity is returning to the galactic community. We will reclaim our homeworld. We will establish our sovereignty. And we will ensure that no species ever attempts genocide against us again. Krethik found his voice. Your species was eliminated. Earth is now Crithian territory, legally recognized by this council. Chen smiled. Earth was never yours, Ambassador. You built your cities on land stolen from my ancestors. You renamed our planet as if that made it yours. You filled our museums with your history and tried to erase ours. But we remembered. Every child born in exile learned about Earth. We never forgot. How many of you are there? The Veshitar representative asked, genuine curiosity in her tone. Enough, Chen said simply. More than enough. If you have the capability to attack our installations, why have you not destroyed them? Krethik demanded. Why capture our soldiers instead of killing them? Because unlike your species, Ambassador, we understand the difference between soldiers following orders and the leaders who give those orders. Your troops are conscripts, many of them from species you've subjugated. We will not kill them for your mistakes. The Lumini delegate spoke, her voice translated into common galactic standard. What do you want, Captain Chen? Justice. Earth returned to human control. Crithian forces withdrawn from our system. Recognition of human sovereignty and territorial rights. And trials for those who ordered our extermination. Vexcon's face appeared on a separate display, broadcasting from Crithian space. You demand trials, you attack our forces and make demands. This is an act of war. No, High Counselor, Chen corrected. Your attack on Earth 107 years ago was an act of war. We're simply finishing what you started. The difference is, we'll win. Bold words from a captain with a single ship, Vexcon sneered. Chen's smile widened. Who said I have a single ship? She made a gesture, and the hologram changed. The council chamber fell silent as new images appeared. Shipyards. Massive construction facilities floating in deep space. Hundreds of vessels in various stages of completion. And in the center, a fleet of warships unlike anything the galaxy had seen in centuries. We didn't spend 107 years hiding and surviving, Chen explained. We spent them building, learning, and preparing. We studied every military engagement in galactic history. We developed technologies you've never imagined. We unified every human colony under a single banner. And we built a fleet that will take back our home. The shipyard images vanished, replaced by Chen's face once more. I'm sharing this with you because humanity does not want war with the entire galaxy. We want war only with those who wronged us. To the other species of the Council, we offer this. Stay out of our way. Do not aid the Crithians in defending stolen territory. When this is over, we will seek peaceful relations with all species who respect our sovereignty. And if we choose to support the Crithian sovereignty, the Quellan chairman asked, then you will learn why humans survived when you all assumed we were dead, Chen said quietly. We survived because we're adaptable, we're determined, and we never ever give up. Earth is ours. We're coming home. You can accept that peacefully, or you can stand in our way. But you cannot stop us. The hologram disappeared. The council chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted at each other in dozens of languages. Security teams scrambled to trace the signal source and failed. Ambassador Krethik stood frozen at his podium, realizing that everything his species had built on Earth was about to come crashing down. On the UHSF carrier Remembrance, Captain Chen removed her transmission gear and looked at her bridge crew. They had watched her address the council, pride evident on every face. How long until we reach Rally Point Omega? She asked her navigator. 16 hours, Captain. Chen nodded. She walked to the observation deck and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth. She had seen it only in recordings, heard about it only in stories. But she felt connected to it in ways she couldn't fully explain. Her executive officer joined her. "That was quite a speech, Captain." It needed to be said. The galaxy needs to know we're serious. "Do you think they'll stay neutral?" Chen shrugged. "Some will, others won't. But it doesn't matter. We're not asking for permission. We're not seeking approval. We're going home." The ship jumped to faster-than-light travel, joining hundreds of others streaming toward a single point in space. At Rally Point Omega, the human fleet was gathering. Ships from colonies scattered across dozens of systems, crews who had trained their entire lives for this moment. Technology developed in secret over a century of exile. And at the center of it all, the flagship Indomitable, where Admiral Marcus Okoye prepared to lead humanity home. The 107 years of preparation were complete. The time for action had come. Admiral Marcus Okoye stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, staring at the tactical display. 3,247 vessels surrounded his flagship. Carriers, battleships, destroyers, frigates, and support craft. The largest military fleet humanity had ever assembled. Every ship was crewed by people who had never seen Earth, but were ready to die for it. "All ships report ready, Admiral," his communications officer announced. Okoye was 72 years old. His grandfather had been among the last to leave Earth, watching from a transport as Crithian weapons burned the planet's surface. That memory, passed down through 3 generations, burned in Okoye's chest. "Open fleet-wide channel," he ordered. "Channel open, sir." Okoye chose his words carefully. "This is Admiral Okoye to all ships. In a few moments we will jump to the Sol system. We will arrive at our homeworld, the birthplace of every human who has ever lived. That world has been occupied for 107 years. Today we take it back. Remember your training. Follow your orders. Protect each other. And show the galaxy what humanity is capable of when we fight for what's ours. All ships, initiate jump in 60 seconds. The countdown began. Okoye watched the numbers tick down. Around him, his bridge crew worked with quiet efficiency. These were the best of the best, selected from thousands of candidates. "Jump in 3, 2, 1, execute." Space twisted. The fleet jumped. In the Sol system, Crithian Fleet Commander Rath Zek was reviewing supply requisitions when the alarm started. Every sensor on every platform screamed warnings simultaneously. Impossible. Nothing could jump that many ships into a system without advanced detection. "Report!" Rath Zek roared. "Multiple contacts, Commander. Unknown vessels emerging from faster than light, numbers still increasing, counting 2,000, 3,000, still counting." Rath Zek pulled up the tactical display. His blood ran cold. Human ships. Thousands of them. In perfect formation, spreading through the system with military precision. "Sound general quarters. Scramble all fighters. Get me a comm line to planetary defense." On Earth's surface, in the Crithian capital city built over the ruins of old Beijing, Governor Sekthra heard the sirens. She looked up at the sky, where she could see flashes of light even through the daytime atmosphere. Weapons fire. The humans had come. In orbit, the battle began. Lieutenant James Park sat in the cockpit of his fighter, launching from the carrier Endeavour with 79 other pilots. His heart pounded as he saw the enemy for the first time. Crithian defensive platforms, massive structures bristling with weapons, 800 Crithian warships moving to engage. "Gold Squadron, this is Gold Leader," Park's squadron commander transmitted. "Target the defensive platforms. Use coordinated missile strikes. Watch for point defense systems." Park's fingers danced across his controls. His fighter's AI synced with the squadron, calculating optimal attack vectors. The Crithian platforms opened fire, space filled with plasma bolts and kinetic rounds. "Break! Break!" someone screamed over the comm. Park twisted his fighter, executing maneuvers that would have torn apart older human ships. His craft, built with materials developed during the exile, handled the stress easily. He locked onto a platform's shield generator and fired. His missiles streaked forward, joined by dozens more from his squadron mates. The platform's shields flickered and failed. Secondary explosions rippled across its surface. Captain Chen's carrier Remembrance deployed its stealth ships to take out the lunar shipyards. These facilities had been building Crithian vessels for decades, using materials mined from humanity's moon. Chen watched from her command chair as her ships, invisible to Crithian sensors, approached their targets. "All ships, weapons free," she ordered. The stealth destroyers fired. Gravitational weapons, developed by human scientists during the exile, tore the shipyards apart. The facilities collapsed, pulled by artificial gravity wells into compact spheres of twisted metal. The Crithian commander at the moon base didn't even have time to issue evacuation orders before his entire facility was disabled. Commander Rathzek watched his defensive line crumble. The human ships were too fast, too coordinated, too advanced. His 800 vessels tried to form defensive positions, but the humans flowed around them like water, striking weak points with surgical precision. "Target their flagship," Rathzek ordered. "If we can destroy their command ship, the fleet may falter." A dozen Crithian battleships focused fire on the Indomitable. Plasma cannons and missile batteries launched everything they had. The human flagship's shields glowed under the assault. On the Indomitable's bridge, Admiral Okoye barely reacted. "Status of shields?" "Holding at 60%, Admiral. Their weapons aren't penetrating." Okoye nodded. Human shield technology had advanced considerably during the exile. "Return fire. Target their lead battleship." The Indomitable's main weapons fired, but instead of traditional projectiles or energy beams, they launched something new. Quantum disruptor torpedoes, weapons that existed in multiple dimensional states simultaneously. The Crithian shields tried to stop them and failed. The torpedoes phased through the shields and detonated inside the battleship's hull. The Crithian vessel broke apart. Rathzek stared in horror. "What weapon was that?" "Unknown, Commander. Our shields didn't register the impact until the torpedoes were already inside." All across the battle space, similar scenes played out. Human weapons technology, developed in secret over a century, proved superior to anything the Crithians possessed. The fight wasn't even close. "Commander, we're being hailed," the communications officer reported. "It's the human flagship." On screen, Admiral Okoye's face appeared. He looked calm, almost sad. "Commander Rathzek, I presume. I am Admiral Marcus Okoye, United Humanity Space Force. I'm offering you terms." "Terms?" Rathzek could barely believe it. "You're winning. Why offer terms?" "Because I'm not interested in slaughter," Okoye replied. "Order your fleet to stand down. Begin evacuation of Earth. Face war crimes tribunals for the occupation. Do this, and your people live. Resist, and we will destroy every Crithian vessel in this system. Your choice, Commander." "You expect me to surrender my entire fleet? To abandon Earth?" "Earth was never yours to claim," Okoye said quietly. "You know this. Your species committed genocide or tried to. You occupied our homeworld. You've had 107 years of stolen time. That time is over. Surrender with honor, or die with none." Rathzek looked at his tactical display. He had lost 300 ships already. The humans had lost fewer than 20. The mathematics were clear. "I need proof," Rathzek said. "Proof that resistance is futile." Okoye nodded. "Very well." The Admiral gave an order. On the Indomitable, a new weapon system powered up, something humanity had developed but never tested in combat. A gravitational pulse generator capable of creating localized gravity distortions strong enough to tear matter apart. The weapon fired at a Crithian dreadnought, one of their largest and most powerful vessels. The ship didn't explode. It didn't burn. It simply came apart. The gravitational forces pulled it in multiple directions simultaneously, tearing the hull into fragments. The crew had no time to scream, no time to react. One moment the ship existed. The next, it was debris. Rath-Zek felt his resolve break. "Cease fire, all ships! Cease fire and stand down!" The Crithian fleet stopped fighting. Human vessels surrounded them, weapons still active but no longer firing. On Earth, Governor Sekthra watched the orbital battle end. She activated the planetary address system. "This is Governor Sekthra to all Crithian citizens. The fleet has surrendered. The humans have won. Begin emergency evacuation procedures. This planet is no longer ours." In orbit, the first human transport ships began their descent. Marines in drop pods launched from carriers, heading for strategic locations across Earth's surface. Their orders were clear: secure the planet, but avoid civilian casualties whenever possible. Sergeant Maria Castellanos was in the first wave. Her pod screamed through the atmosphere, atmospheric friction heating the exterior to glowing red. Her squad of 12 Marines sat in restraint harnesses, checking weapons and equipment. 30 seconds to ground," the pilot announced. Castellanos looked at her soldiers. "Remember, we're liberators, not conquerors. The Crithian civilians are not our enemy. We secure the area, establish order, and wait for further instructions. Clear?" "Yes, Sergeant!" The pod hit ground in what had once been called Colorado. The doors blew open, and Castellanos was the first out, rifle ready. She expected resistance. Instead, she found Crithian civilians standing in the streets, staring at the sky, many of them crying. She approached carefully, her translator active. "We are human military forces. We are reclaiming this planet. You will not be harmed if you comply with evacuation orders." An elderly Crithian male stepped forward. "We know. Governor Sekthra told us. We are ready to leave." Castellanos lowered her rifle. She looked around at the city, built over human ruins. She could see old architecture beneath the newer Crithian structures. She knelt and pressed her hand to the ground. The soil of Earth, home. Tears ran down her face. After 107 years, humans walked on Earth again. In orbit, Admiral Okoye received reports from across the planet. The Crithian military had surrendered. Evacuation had begun. There was no civilian uprising, no last-ditch resistance. "Send the message to the fleet," Okoye ordered. "Earth is ours." 3 months after the Battle of Sol, transport ships still carried Crithian civilians away from Earth. The evacuation was organized, peaceful, and thorough. Human military personnel supervised every step, ensuring no violence occurred on either side. Governor Sekthra stood in what had been her office, now empty of furniture and personal items. She looked out the window at the city below. Crithian citizens lined up at transport stations, carrying what belongings they could. Human soldiers directed traffic, helped with children, even provided medical assistance where needed. "It's strange," she said to the human officer who had come to escort her to the transport. "We expected you to kill us all." Captain Sarah Chen, now assigned to planetary occupation duties, shook her head. "We're not like you. We don't believe in collective punishment. You personally didn't order the attack on Earth. You were born here long after the war. Why would we kill you for crimes committed by your ancestors?" "My people would have," Sekthra admitted, "if our positions were reversed." "I know," Chen said quietly. "That's why we're different." At the Galactic Council Station, an emergency session addressed the complete collapse of Crithian power. Ambassador Krethik stood before the council, no longer proud and confident. His species had been humiliated, defeated in 3 days of fighting. Subject species within Crithian territory were already rebelling, seeing the defeat as an opportunity. "The Crithian sovereignty requests assistance," Krethik said, his voice hollow. "We face civil war. Multiple species we had governed are now attacking our forces. The Veshtar representative clicked her mandibles. Governed? Is that what you call subjugation now? Perhaps these species are simply reclaiming their freedom, just as the humans reclaimed theirs. The Council must act, Krethik insisted. The stability of this region depends on it. The Drenathi ambassador's colors shifted to indicate contempt. You come here, after attempting genocide, after losing a war you started, and demand we help you maintain your empire? I think not. The Council chairman spoke. There is also the matter of the human demand for war crimes tribunals. The humans have submitted a list of Krithian officials they wish to prosecute. High Counselor Vexcon is at the top of that list. Krethik's scales paled. You cannot seriously consider this. Vexcon is the head of our government. He was also the architect of the attempted extermination of humanity, the Lumini delegate said, her crystalline form pulsing with firm conviction. The humans have provided evidence. Communications, military orders, planning documents. The case is clear. Admiral Okoye appeared via hologram. The Galactic Council has a choice. Support the rule of law and hand over those responsible for genocide, or protect war criminals because they happen to lead a member species. Your decision will show the galaxy what kind of organization you truly are. The vote was called. 39 species voted to comply with human demands. 4 abstained. Only the Krithians voted against. High Counselor Vexicon and 43 other Krithian officials were ordered to surrender for trial. On Earth, reconstruction had begun. Human engineers surveyed the damage done to ecosystems and historical sites during the Krithian occupation. It was worse than expected. The Krithians had strip-mined entire regions. They had built over historical landmarks without documenting or preserving them. They had introduced invasive species that disrupted local wildlife. But humans were good at rebuilding. Colony ships that had wandered the stars for a century brought back knowledge and technology. Human scientists from a dozen different colony worlds collaborated on restoration projects. Earth would heal. Sergeant Maria Castellanos had been assigned to help restore the area around what had once been called Rome. She stood in the ruins of the Colosseum where Krithian construction had damaged the ancient structure. A team of historians and engineers surrounded her, planning the restoration. It's going to take years, one of the historians said sadly. Maybe decades. Then we'll take decades, Castellanos replied. We waited 107 years to come home. We can wait a few more to make it right. On Mars, construction crews built facilities for a different purpose. War crimes tribunals would be held here, on a planet where Krithian forces had run prison camps for enslaved alien species. The symbolism was intentional. High Counselor Vexcon arrived in chains. He was old now, nearly 200 years by Krithian standards. He had ordered the attack on Earth when he was young and ambitious. Now he would face justice for that decision. The tribunal was held in a large chamber. Judges from 7 neutral species presided. Human prosecutors presented evidence. Vexcon was given the opportunity to defend himself. I believed, Vexcon said, his voice tired, that humanity posed an existential threat to galactic stability. They were expanding too quickly. They were too aggressive, too unpredictable. I acted to protect the Krithian sovereignty and our allies. Captain Chen testified against him. She stood before the tribunal and described the exile. Billions of humans forced to flee their homeworld. Generation ships where children were born and died without ever seeing a planet. The psychological trauma of being refugees for over a century. The fear that they would never see Earth again. High Counselor Vexcon made a decision to commit genocide based on fear and prejudice, Chen said. He didn't try diplomacy. He didn't try containment. He went straight to extermination. And when he thought he had succeeded, he boasted about it at the Galactic Council. He showed no remorse for the attempted murder of an entire species. VexCon's defense attorney, a Lumini with centuries of legal experience, tried to argue that his client had acted in what he believed were the best interests of galactic peace. The tribunal was not convinced. The verdict came after 3 weeks of testimony. Guilty on all charges: genocide, war crimes, crimes against sapient species. The sentence was life imprisonment. VexCon would spend the rest of his days on Mars, working on environmental restoration projects alongside members of the species his people had enslaved. He would help repair the damage done by Crithian occupation. As guards led him away, VexCon stopped and looked at Captain Chen. "Tell me, Captain, what would you have done in my position? If you had detected a species that you believed would threaten everything you had built, would you have taken the risk?" Chen met his eyes. "I would have found a way to coexist. That's the difference between us, High Counselor. You saw a potential threat and chose destruction. We would have chosen dialogue. You feared what we might become. We tried to understand who you were. You're right that we're different from you. But that difference isn't what you thought. We're not more aggressive or more dangerous. We're just more willing to see other species as people instead of threats." VexCon said nothing. There was nothing left to say. 5 years passed. Earth transformed. The Crithian cities were dismantled, recycled, and replaced with human architecture that honored the history of each region. Forests were replanted. Oceans were cleaned. Historical sites were restored with painstaking care. Humans from the colonies returned by the millions. Some had never left, traveling from generation ship to generation ship their entire lives. Others came from established colonies on distant worlds, bringing families who had known only alien skies. The population of Earth reached 3 billion. Not as many as before the exile, but growing steadily. On the 5th anniversary of liberation, a ceremony was held at the site of the old United Nations building in New York. Leaders from every human colony attended. Admiral Okoye, now retired but still respected, gave a speech. "We came home," he said simply. "We survived what was meant to destroy us. We built a fleet in the darkness of space. We fought and won against impossible odds. We showed mercy when we could have shown cruelty. And now we rebuild, not just our world, but our place in the galaxy. Earth is ours again, and it will never be taken from us." Not by the Crithians, not by anyone. We have proven that humanity cannot be extinguished. We have proven that we can fight, but we prefer to build. We have proven that we remember our history, both the glorious and the terrible, and we learn from it. This is our world, this is our home, and we will defend it, now and forever. The crowd cheered. Captain Chen, now Ambassador Chen, assigned to the Galactic Council, stood in the crowd and felt tears on her face. Her grandparents had fled Earth. Her parents had been born in exile. She had spent her life fighting to return to a world she had never seen. But now she was home, and so was all of humanity. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked through the corridors of Apex Prime Station with confidence. 5 years ago, humans had no representation here. Now she led a delegation of 12, representing humanity's interests to the 43 species of the Galactic Council. The other ambassadors treated her with respect, some with fear, a few with genuine friendship. All of them remembered what humanity had done to the Crithian sovereignty. She entered her office, a space designed to accommodate human atmospheric and gravitational preferences. Her assistant, a young human named Marcus from the Europa colony, waited with the daily briefing. "Ambassador, you have 3 meetings today. First is with the Veshtar trade delegation about technology sharing. Second is with the Lumini Cultural Exchange Program. Third is the big one. The Crithian Republic has formally requested membership in the Sol Defense Coalition." Chen sat down heavily. They actually submitted the application? Yes, ma'am. It arrived this morning. Ambassador Sekthra delivered it personally. Chen smiled slightly. Governor Sekthra, the last Krithian administrator of occupied Earth, had become a teacher and advocate for Krithian human reconciliation. She had taken a position with the reformed Krithian Republic's diplomatic corps, working to rebuild her species' reputation. Schedule a meeting with her. I want to discuss this before it goes to vote. The rest of the morning passed in routine diplomatic work. Chen negotiated trade agreements, discussed cultural programs, and reviewed security reports. Being an ambassador was far less exciting than commanding a stealth carrier, but it was important work. At lunch, she met her husband in the station's human section. Lieutenant James Park, now Commander Park and a test pilot for joint human-alien technology projects, waited at their favorite restaurant. "How's the new fighter design?" Chen asked as she sat down. "Incredible," Park said, his eyes lighting up. "The Veshitar propulsion system combined with our quantum shielding creates something faster and more maneuverable than anything we've built before. If we can get production approved, the Coalition will have the most advanced fighters in the galaxy." "If the Budget Committee agrees," Chen reminded him. "Money is tight. We're still rebuilding Earth and the colonies need infrastructure improvements." "I know. But Sarah, you should see what we're creating. Humans and Veshtar engineers working together, combining our technologies. It's amazing." Chen squeezed his hand. They had married 3 years ago, a simple ceremony on Earth attended by both their families. Her parents had cried, grateful to see their daughter married on their home world instead of on a colony ship in deep space. That afternoon, Chen met with Ambassador Sekthra in a private conference room. The Krithian looked older, her scales duller than they once were. 5 years of shame had aged her species rapidly. "Ambassador Chen," Sekthra greeted her formally, "thank you for agreeing to meet. Of course, your application to join the Sol Defense Coalition is unexpected." Sekthra settled into a chair designed for Krithian physiology. "My government believes that joining the coalition is our best path forward. We have lost our empire. We have lost our pride. We have lost our sense of purpose. What we have gained is perspective. We see now what we did wrong. We see how our arrogance nearly destroyed us. And we see that humanity, despite every reason to hate us, has shown us mercy." "Mercy has limits," Chen said carefully. "Many humans still harbor deep resentment toward your species. Allowing Krithians into our defense alliance will be controversial." "I know. But, Ambassador, there are threats in this galaxy far worse than what my people once were. The Hegrath domain in the Outer Rim is expanding. They are doing to other species what we tried to do to you. They believe in conquest and domination. They enslave entire planets. If they continue unchecked, millions will die." Chen had read the reports. The Hegrath domain was a xenophobic empire that viewed all other species as inferior. They were technologically advanced and utterly ruthless. Already they had destroyed 3 civilizations and absorbed another dozen. "What does the Krithian Republic offer the Coalition?" Chen asked. "Our military expertise, diminished as it is, our industrial capacity, our knowledge of the region where the Hegrath are most active, and our desire to atone for our past crimes by defending those who cannot defend themselves." Chen studied the Krithian ambassador. "You understand that if we accept you, Krithian soldiers will serve under human commanders? That Krithian ships will follow human battle plans? That your species will be junior partners in an alliance we created?" "Yes," Sekthra said without hesitation. "We understand, and we accept it. We lost the right to pride when we attempted genocide." The meeting ended with no commitments, but Chen promised to bring the application before the Coalition Council. It would be a difficult vote. 3 days later, the Sol Defense Coalition held its quarterly meeting. 37 species were represented, including humans, Veshtar, Lumini, Drenathi, and dozens of smaller species who had joined seeking protection and mutual support. Admiral Marcus Okoye, now serving as the coalition's military advisor, presented the Krithian application. The debate was fierce. "They tried to kill us all," a human delegate from the Mars colony shouted. "How can we trust them?" "They have changed," a Veshtar representative argued. "Their government has reformed. They have paid reparations. They have submitted to war crimes tribunals. At what point do we allow redemption?" The Drenathi ambassador spoke quietly. "I remember when humans were nearly extinct. I remember thinking you would never forgive. But you have shown remarkable restraint. You have shown that justice does not require eternal punishment. If humans can show such wisdom, perhaps we all should." Chen stood to address the council. 5 years ago, I stood on the bridge of a warship, preparing to take back my home world. I was angry. I wanted revenge. But my orders were clear. Fight the military, spare the civilians, and seek justice, not vengeance. We followed those orders. We won our war, but we didn't become monsters in the process. Now we face a choice. Do we allow the Krithians to earn their way back into the galactic community? Or do we condemn them forever for the crimes of their past leadership? She paused, looking around the chamber. I vote yes. I vote to accept the Krithian Republic into the Sol Defense Coalition, with probationary status and strict oversight. Not because I've forgotten what they did, but because I remember who we are. We're the species that survived extinction. We're the species that came home. And we're the species that believes in second chances, even for our enemies. The vote was called. It was close. But ultimately, the Krithian Republic was accepted into the coalition by a margin of 3 votes. 6 months later, a joint human-Krithian patrol squadron intercepted a Hegrath domain raiding party attacking a Lumini colony world. The battle was brief. The Hegrath ships were driven off. Lumini civilians were saved, and humans and Krithians fought side by side for the first time in history. On Earth, in the rebuilt city of Geneva, the Galactic Defense Alliance held its founding ceremony. This was different from the Sol Defense Coalition. This was bigger, more ambitious. An alliance of species committed to preventing extinction-level threats against any member species. 48 species signed the charter. Humans were a founding member, but not the only one. The Veshitar, Lumini, Drenathi, and even the Krithian Republic added their names to the document. Ambassador Chen stood before the assembly. 112 years ago, my species faced extinction. We were alone. No one came to help us. No one spoke in our defense. We survived through our own strength and determination, but we shouldn't have had to. No species should face extinction alone. That's why we're here today, to make sure that no other species experiences what humanity experienced. To stand together against those who would commit genocide. To prove that the galaxy can be more than a collection of isolated species fighting for survival. We can be a community, protecting each other, building together, ensuring that every species has the right to exist and thrive. The ceremony concluded with the signing. Species from across the galaxy, many of whom had never worked together before, committed to mutual defense. Commander Park, watching from Earth via holographic broadcast, marveled at what they had achieved. We came back from near extinction to create a galactic defense pact. That's incredible. His father, who had been born on a colony ship and never expected to see Earth, nodded. Your mother would have been proud. She always said humans were at their best when we were helping others. That evening, Chen returned to Earth via high-speed transport. She walked through the streets of New Geneva, seeing humans and aliens mixing peacefully. A Veshitar street vendor sold food to human customers. A Lumini artist displayed crystalline sculptures in a gallery. A Krithian teacher led a group of human children on a field trip to a museum. This was the future they had fought for, not just to reclaim Earth, but to build something better than what existed before. She stopped at a memorial. It listed the names of every human who had died during the exile. Millions of names. People who never saw Earth again. Children born and buried in space. Families scattered across the stars. A young Krithian approached cautiously. "Excuse me, Ambassador Chen. I'm Catherine. I'm a student at the University of Earth studying human history." "Yes?" Chen said, wiping tears from her eyes. "I wanted to ask, what do humans want? Now that you have your homeworld back, now that you've built this alliance, what's next?" Chen smiled. "The same thing we've always wanted, Catherine. To survive, to grow, to explore, to learn, to make sure no other species experiences what we did. We almost went extinct once. We're going to make sure that never happens to anyone again. Not to humans, not to Krithians, not to anyone." The young Krithian nodded thoughtfully. "That's why you created the Alliance, to protect others." "Yes, because we remember what it's like to face extinction alone. And we're going to make sure no one else ever has to." Chen looked up at the sky. Stars were beginning to appear as night fell. Somewhere out there were human colonies, spreading slowly but steadily through space. Somewhere out there were allies, species who had joined with humanity to create something better. And somewhere out there were threats, dangers that would test them all. But humanity was ready. They had survived the worst that could happen. They had come home. They had built an alliance, and they would defend it, now and forever. Earth was safe, humanity was thriving, and the galaxy was better for it. The exile was over. The future had begun.